Right, so I'm going to try to break down the encounter for you, or the patient's chart. How I accessed it, I just clicked on the E here, and it opened up the encounter. So you see a lot of things in here. You can see the preventions, measurements, consultations, stuff like that. So some of them are a little bit more self-explanatory. So the preventions, immunizations, these are what's going to list here for this patient. Disease registry. The forms and e-forms, don't let the names kind of fool you. They technically are different on how they get into the system, but how you use them, they're very similar. So the forms are a set of static forms. If you hover over, you'll see the long list of forms that may be in your system, and you just would select it, and you just enter the form. Now the form and the e-forms are there to replace the paper version of the form, and that way you can enter it within Oscar, have electronic format, and now the e-forms, they're very similar to the forms, except there's usually a lot more. You can click on the plus sign, and it will bring you to the add new forms, and you can see all the e-form templates that you can use. But basically all they are just forms that you can use when you're assessing the patient, so you can collect the data on this patient. Again, the forms, the same forms that you would put into the paper chart, but you're putting into Oscar. And then documents here, if you watched one of the previous videos on the eDocs, when I talked about the private and public documents, this is the patient-specific documents. This is where you would upload a document related to this patient, and that has patient information on it. So this is my patient looking at now. As you can see, test Denise private documents. And it would function the same way as the other documents that you can upload. But again, when you upload them here, they upload strictly to this patient. And then the lab results. You can find the lab results in here. You can find, these are the lab results. So if there was labs for this patient, when I clicked on it, they would display in here. You would see a table in here with all the labs. The other place that you could see the labs is on labs that are incoming to the system is if when you go to the inbox. So again, the inbox we'll talk about another time, but that's just making a point of it since I did mention the labs that are here. And then the messenger, we talked about that. It's where you can send messages, where you can attach messages if you want to send messages to other providers within Oscar about this patient. This is where you would send it here, and it looks the same as the other messenger, but if there was messages for this patient, for me to read on this patient or for another provider, it would list them here. Some of the measurements, just in case. Measurements, this will list, so as you enter measurements in a flow sheet, some e-forms are connected to the measurements. They'll start displaying here. So like if I go to the health tracker or sedum indicators, start entering the data, the data enter will list under here. So I can kind of show you. The other thing is, so here, let me just show. So you see the health tracker here. So if I click on, let's just do the diabetes flow sheet. And for now, I'm gonna skip the diagnosis. We'll talk about that when we talk about the health tracker. But I'll just show you. I'm gonna enter a weight on this patient. It's gonna be in kilograms. I don't know. I'm gonna put 79, and then I'm gonna save it. Okay, so information's been saved. I'm gonna go back here. Now, a lot of times when you go to the other screens and save data, like an e-form and stuff like that, when you come back to the encounter, you just have to press F5 or refresh the screen. And once it comes back after once it's done transferring the data, we'll see the weight that I just put in there. So now you see the measurement that was taken and when it was taken. Some of the other important features are the CPP items that are up here. You can just click on here and add a new item, and it will display. And So now the notes. We can see if we go down here. So this section here, how people call it toilet paper roll, or what's the progress notes. So if I want to start a new note, I would just click on the new note icon. I would make whatever note I want, and you have options to sign and save, and verify and sign, and sign, save, and bill. I'm just going to press save, and it closes Scrum. So what I'm going to do now is just go back, since I'm still going to demonstrate some of the other stuff, the medications and allergies. I'll click this. So again, we're back at the encounter. So now you know, like when you press the sign save, it's going to close the screen that you're on. And here's where we can add in some of the allergies. I'll just click, hopefully it loads in quick. Yeah, and then you can hear what list any allergies this patient's on. You could then search it. We'll go a little more depth in this when we do the prescriptions module. But at least I can show you what they are. Medications. So medications is the Oscar RX. Here you can search medication. You can add it here by creating a prescription. Again, I'm just giving you some basics on the navigations of the encounter, and those are some of the basics. Now, this field here is kind of like a magic search field. I can search on if I had any forms that have been entered, or ones I want to add. So here I want to enter the lower back pain guide, and I could just click on it. It's kind of a quick way to access these. The difference is to see is that it says new. That's when you know that it's like the original form. There's no data on it. If I searched it and there was ones that are saved already, it would just say the lower back pain and not the new. So, and if you're looking for anything here, you can do a search, and you can select where you want to search from to pull back some information. So this is the basics on your on the patient's encounter, how you can access it, what are the basics of the items that are in it, and that's it.